The sky was dark, the air was cold, the crickets chirped, but the world was silent. The serenity of the night was shattered when a gunshot rang out in Blaine. A young, promising woman was dead. There were few clues and many questions. In the end, those questions would remain. It was March the 19th, 1999. Melissa Ann Patrick stood beside a desolate road in Blaine, Tennessee. The barrel of a gun was placed against the back of her head. The trigger was squeezed without hesitation. Melissa's life ended immediately. Her body was pushed down the weedy embankment. Those last terrifying moments would be contested for many, many years to come. Just when loved ones thought they had answers, everything came crashing down. This is the murder of Melissa Ann Patrick. It is quite possibly one of the strangest cases Grainger County, Tennessee has ever seen. On the night of March the 19th, 20-year-old Melissa Ann Patrick left her job at Bilo in Farragut. She arrived home in Knoxville around 10 p.m. After eating supper and seeing her mother to bed, Melissa left. She was obviously in a hurry. When her stepfather arrived home at 11 p.m., she was nowhere to be found. Melissa's mother, Linda Sizemore, attempted to page her daughter but got no response. She probably thought it was nothing and just went back to sleep. The next morning, the worries intensified. Melissa still hadn't come home. Around 3 p.m. that night, the phone rang. Investigators were at the house of Patrick's fiancée. Linda and her husband were about to discover what detectives already knew. Detectives had discovered Melissa's body after receiving a tip from someone driving on Lee Lake Road. The body was lying on an old mattress next to a tree. It had been discarded like a piece of rubbish. Detectives suspected that Melissa was shot on the shoulder of the road and pushed over the embankment to her final resting place. Despite the wretched circumstances, detectives did have a little bit of luck. Melissa's body slammed into a nearby tree. Otherwise, she would have rolled into the creek and her body may have never been discovered. It would be many years before possible answers would begin to surface. It would take a little bit of luck and cunning to get an indictment against these two individuals, who police believe were the most likely culprits. In May of 2008, Grainger County's unsolved murder count would drop from 2 to 1. A Grainger County grand jury handed down indictments against 32-year-old Christopher Elvin Williams and 34-year-old Leanne Stansberry. They were looking at life and possibly even death. Both were charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. In a letter to the Knoxville News-Sentinel editors on June the 10th of 2008, Reverend Lon Chenoweth of the Bethlehem Baptist Church in Oneida thanked the detectives, TBI agents, and officers for bringing the suspects to justice. It was a real time for celebration for those who knew Melissa. However, detectives knew it was tough to get an indictment. Getting a guilty verdict would be much, much tougher. Things were about to take a stunning turn. Detectives need evidence, and they needed it quick. They suspected that Christopher Williams executed Melissa after sleeping with her in the bed of his pickup truck. They had a shell casing, but no gun. That changed when Williams knowingly and willingly handed his gun to a friend who just happened to be a police officer. Highway Patrolman Toby Cameron was pals with Williams. When Williams began showing an unusual interest in Patrick's murder, something clicked. Detectives believed that Williams had met two Knoxville women through a telephone dating line. Those two women, Leanne Stansberry and April Gibson, may have spoken about killing Patrick because she was considered a rival for the affections of another man. Toby sprung into action. He quickly made up a tale. He pretended that he wanted to let his girlfriend test fire a .25 caliber pistol. After all, she wanted to buy one. Toby knew Williams had a gun of the same caliber. Before too long, Williams took the bait. He handed the gun to Toby, even when he was in full uniform. Was it a terrible mistake on the killer's behalf, or an act of arrogance? Prosecutors believed the latter. Co-defendant Leanne Stansberry flipped and accepted a 20-year prison term. A jailhouse snitch claimed that Williams confessed to the murder. Experts linked Williams' gun to the bullet that killed Melissa Patrick. The gates of justice were beginning to shut on Christopher Elvin Williams. Leanne Stansbury recruited Williams to kill Patrick, whom she considered a romantic rival. In return, Williams was given the opportunity to sleep with her friend, April Gibson. Gibson confessed to sleeping with Williams in the bed of his pickup truck. She denied knowing that it may have been a payment for Patrick's execution. The defense attorney managed to pick holes in Leanne's testimony. After all, she had already tried to pin the crime on several other people. She also implicated herself at one point. Still, prosecutors and investigators were optimistic. After all, they had the snitch and the ballistic test. Their optimism would soon become guilt. Their own guilt. In mid-May of 2009, the jury returned their verdict. Everyone waited nervously in the courtroom. The foreman began to speak. Williams let out a sigh of relief. He had just been acquitted. He hugged his 15-year-old son. He undoubtedly heard Melissa's mother scream out, "He killed my baby, he needs to burn in hell." And life goes on, as cruel as it may be. Justice will likely never be done. Was Christopher Williams responsible for the murder of Melissa and Patrick? Was it someone else who evaded justice? As for Christopher Elvin Williams, the convicted sex offender is still living in Blaine, Tennessee. Justice, it has a cruel nature with no universal path. Some meet justice in an instant, with the pull of a trigger. Others get it after years and years of judicial proceedings. Then, there are those who believe justice is an unattainable myth. The family of Melissa and Patrick. Justice may never come.